All right, and we are rolling. Hey everybody, Wolfgang here, back again for another episode of Figured Out Later. Um, it's been 2, 3 weeks since I've recorded the last episode. I think 3 weeks at this point. And I'm sorry, I'm bad at this, man. Trying to balance life and trying to do this. But what can you do? I'm here. Got a new light here. If you can't see, like half my face is like ghostly white now. The other half is just pink. But yeah, I've been really busy with work and classes starting back up. The classes I'm taking right now are pretty demanding. So been focusing a lot on that one. But when I have some free time, I've been listening to some audiobooks. I've been listening to the audiobooks of two classic Michael Crichton books, Jurassic Park, and I'm currently listening to The Lost World, which is the sequel to Jurassic Park. And I thought that would be a good topic for this next episode. Let's see here if I can balance all this. We're going to talk about my favorite author, Michael Crichton. So, Michael Crichton unfortunately passed away. He was a brilliant, brilliant guy. So, a lot of people may know him from his work with Jurassic Park. Michael. Steven Spielberg read the original book from 1989 and adapted it into the movie in 1993. And anybody my age had to have seen Jurassic Park. It was just, any 90s kid saw Jurassic Park. It was just that movie that everybody saw. And it was the movie I grew up watching and made me love dinosaurs. And I still love dinosaurs to this day. And funny thing is that after the success of not only the first book, but also the movie that Steven Spielberg made, Steven Spielberg asked Michael Crichton, hey, you need to make a sequel to this. You need to write a sequel so we can get like another movie out of it. Michael Crichton really didn't want to do it, but he did anyway. And that became The Lost World. And The Lost World was so different from the book. The movie was so different than the book, which I'll talk about in a minute here. So, this pile of books that I have right here, I am missing one of the books. I actually don't have a physical copy of Jurassic Park or The Lost World, which I need to add to my collection. My dad says that we have one somewhere in the house, but we've been searching for a while and haven't found them, so I'm just going to buy new copies. And I lost my copy of Timeless. I don't know where it's at. Maybe it's just hidden deep on the bookshelf that we have down here in the basement. Timeless is another one that my cousin, I just saw the movie like last fall for Timeless. It's Paul Walker and Gerard Butler were the two main stars in it. Pretty cool science fiction movie, fantasy. More science fiction than fantasy, but medieval premises. And I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to talk about all this momentarily. But I saw the movie, and then I mentioned to my cousin, like, oh yeah, he wrote the book Timeless. He goes, is that like the movie Timeless? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh my god, that's awesome. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. A lot of other people may know from the TV show ER. Michael Crichton was one of the front runners on the show ER. There's that. If everyone likes the HBO show Westworld, developed from Michael Crichton's work, Westworld. It was originally a movie back in the 70s based off of a book from him, which I haven't read yet. I think I'm going to put it on my list of things to read when I have free time. But this pile of books right here, I'm going to go through. This, man, do I want to talk about these first, or do I want to talk about the ones I've read most recently? I'm already going for it. So, this one here, Prey, is probably my favorite from him. It's about this gentleman. His wife is starting to act weird. She works in the middle of the desert in a experimental facility where they're developing nanotechnology, and the AI and the nanotechnology becomes sentient and is like slowly taking over people's minds and bodies. And he is basically losing his wife to it, so he has to go in there and figure out how to stop it. It's really cool. I highly recommend that to any science fiction lover. Next is another great one. I don't remember all the details of it, but this one, I feel that if you've seen the newest trilogy of Planet of the Apes, the Rise of Planet of the Apes, Dawn of Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, there are elements from this one next that they adopted. And I thought it was like really cool. It's about animal experimentation where they are kind of developing different what's the word I'm looking for? They're developing different chemical compounds to make animals smarter. There's a 4-year-old chimp in this that begins speaking and communicates like he is a 4-year-old child. And there's a parakeet, and parakeets are known to like mimic speech, but they can't really hold a conversation, if you know. But this one has developed a way to have a full-on conversation, can think for its own, can answer any question. It's really cool, and it's kind of taking down the evil heads of the corporation, the evil heads of the competing corporation who are just trying to dismantle a lot of things. But I'm going to talk about Jurassic Park here for a minute, because I just finished listening to the audiobook about a week ago, and it was freaking awesome. So talking about Jurassic Park, it's really hard for me to decipher or to choose which is better, the movie or the book. And typically it's, the book is so much better than the movie, and I most of the time I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree, because movies typically tend to leave out a lot of details or change a lot of things. The Harry Potter series, for one, they leave out so many details. The Hunger Games, that's on this weekend, and it was on TV earlier when I was upstairs with my parents. They left out a lot of details, or they changed a lot so it could fit cleaner into the movie, I guess. I don't know. The biggest culprit of that is the first Percy Jackson movie. They changed the shit out of that one. Now, the Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park is no exception to that. They changed so much. But it's still such a great movie. And maybe it's nostalgia talking for me. But god damn, is that movie just fan-fucking-tastic. And I love it. It's what started my love for dinosaurs. When I said that already, but whatever. It's such a good movie, and I could watch it 24/7. I've watched it probably 100 times at this point. Excuse me. But the book, holy crap, the book is fan-fucking-tastic. And it's a lot darker than what the movie came out to be. And if Steven Spielberg held true to the book, and if he went with Michael Crichton actually helped Steven Spielberg and all the writers and producers in the first part of the Jurassic Park movie to try figure out this is what I wrote, and I think it should be portrayed like this, and they went through the original script, and it got changed I think 4 or 5 times. And even though Michael Crichton is put down as one of the writers, I think, of the movie, he really did not have a huge part in the finalization of the movie. Now, with that being said, if Steven Spielberg kept true to Michael Crichton's vision, it would be the goriest, most horror-filled R-rated movie that he probably ever would release. Well, no, I shouldn't say ever release, because he's had some gory ones. It would be an R-rated horror movie. It would be a gore fest, because the details Michael Crichton puts in on the deaths is just insane. And also, it would be harder for kids to get into, not just because of the horror aspect of it, but a lot of the science behind it. Michael Crichton is really big on or was really big on, I'm going to shove as much science into this book as I can, because he was a scientist. He was a scientist in his life, and he wrote like a bunch of nonfiction medical like a lot of nonfiction books that were based around like medicine. They were based new inventions for medical practices and all this insane like biological, chemical, physics stuff. I haven't read any of that. I'm more of a fan of fiction novels. I'm big into sci-fi. I'm big into horror stuff like that. So not for probably a long time am I ever going to be interested in his nonfiction stuff and his like research. Oh, as of right now, I'm 25 years old. Maybe in the future I will be. I don't know. Anyway, just different changes, like certain things that they just left out. Like one of the biggest ones is Dennis Nedry, who I can't think of the actor's name. I just know he was big in Seinfeld. He was Newman in Seinfeld, and he was funny in the movie. Big guy who was stealing everything, putting it in the Barbasol can, and then he gets eaten by the Dilophosaurus. In the movie, it's very quick. They kind of just pan away and done. You just know he's dead. You hear him screaming, yada yada yada. Michael Crichton's version of the death was insane. It was insanely gory. Like, goes into detail about how he was dying, what led to his death. And they do that with a lot of other parts of it. And an aspect that was in The Lost World, in the beginning of the Lost World movie, the sequel to Jurassic Park, the family's on the beach on this tropical island. They're just on their yacht, and they say, "Oh, let's stop on this beach, and we'll have lunch here." And the girl wanders off, and the compy is there, and they also are like attacking and biting her. That's actually from the first Jurassic Park book. Slightly different, but it's from the original, where a family from Dallas, they're on vacation in actually Costa Rica. And they go to this really quiet, like kind of deserted beach. It's like, oh, there's nobody in sight. This is gonna be perfect just to hang out, have lunch. We can go swim in the water if we want to. And the daughter wanders off. She's like kind of looking at all the different animals that are around. And this green lizard that's standing on its two hind legs, that's acting like a chicken, comes out and talking to it and kind of like drawing a picture of it, and then it bites her. And that's how the book starts. And there's a lot of other like really dark elements in the first part of Jurassic Park. I'm just gonna skip over that because I don't think everybody wants to know. It might not just, yeah, just nobody wants to. If you're interested in the gore and stuff, read the book. I'm not gonna go into deep detail on it. And John Hammond, the character of John Hammond, is very different in the book than he is into the movie. Because like halfway through the movie, John Hammond realizes, holy shit, I fucked up. I fucked up making this island, so we have to abandon Jurassic Park. And at the end, he says, like, when Alan Grant says, I will not endorse the park, he goes, yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I'm obviously paraphrasing here. Anyway. So he leaves, and the next one, he's sick at home, but he's still kind of running things. And he says, like, oh, there's another island where they're living. That's where Site B. I'll get to Site B when I talk a little bit more about the Lost World novel, which I'm currently listening to. And I've read Jurassic Park and the Lost World probably 3-4 years ago, and I'm rereading them now because they were just such great books. And I've never reread books before. I'm more of a person just like, oh, I went through it, I read it, I'm done. Oh, read through it, done. Read through it, done. But these books, I was just like, I gotta revisit it because I've also seen YouTube videos where they talk about certain aspects. I'm like, I don't remember that. I need to go back and read this. So, John Hammond in the book, he's just an asshole who doesn't give a fuck about anybody else. Like, he brings his children to the island as a way to coerce the to, of course, like Alan Grant, Ian Malcolm, Sadler. Um, God, I can't remember the lawyer's name now. To convince them all, like, no, 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 we should fund this island. We're gonna fund this island. Look, even the kids love it, and bring them in. Then the whole systems go down because of Nedry. The Tyrannosaurus gets out and attacks the trucks. Everyone's freaking out, and they're just like, oh no, we need to go out and like find the kids. Hammond's just sitting there eating ice cream, just like, they'll be fine, whatever. And in the end of it all, like people have died, and there's still chaos ensuing on the island, and they're waiting for like rescue copters to come and like scoop them all up, get them out of there. And he's just like, I don't understand why everyone's freaking the fuck out. Next time we'll do fine. And he starts blaming everyone else for the problems of the island when everyone else has told him all the problems that are going to come up. But he wouldn't listen to them. And now I won't spoil anything, but you reap what you sow. And that's what John Hammond ended up doing in the book. And Ian Malcolm's a little different in the book as well. He's still semi-charismatic, but he not as charismatic as Jeff Goldblum. I don't know if anyone can be as charismatic as Jeff Goldblum. But in the book, he's like just very long-winded on everything with his theories, and gives like these powerful speeches. And I mean, Jeff Goldblum's interpretation had that at times, but not to the extent of what was in the book. And maybe that's for the better. I don't know, because maybe it would just end up boring people when a gentleman is talking for 5 minutes at a time on chaos theory and on different things that have happened. Who knows? Alan Grant is actually a little older in the book. He's 40, barrel-chested, huge beard. He's actually walking around the island during this whole thing in a Hawaiian t-shirt. And he's not in a relationship with Ellie, who's like 24, getting her doctorate, is engaged to a doctor who lives in Chicago. So they don't actually have a romantic relationship like they do in the movies. The kids, Tim and... oh my god, I can't think of the little girl's name. Lex. Tim and Lex. The two of them, they're a little different in the book, where Lex is the older of the two, and she's really into computers. And Tim is younger and is really into dinosaurs. In the book, Tim is the older one, into computers, into dinosaurs, and Lex is like 6 years old, just really into sports, little daddy's girl kind of thing. And something that the Jurassic World movie with like Chris Pratt, something that they adopted in that one that was in the original book and wasn't in the original Jurassic Park movie. I'm saying so much. I'm sorry if I start confusing people. So a concept that was in the original Jurassic Park book that wasn't in the original Jurassic Park movie was adopted in the Jurassic World movie. Tim and Lex's parents are getting a divorce, and the mom is related to John Hammond. They send the kids away, just like, hey, while we're getting all this shit cleared up with our divorce, have the kids hang out with Grandpa and go on this big vacation spot. It's a tropical island. He told us, so he's building a resort on a tropical island. So the kids had no idea they were going to be seeing a bunch of dinosaurs. So they never like mentioned anything about Tim and Lex's parents like having a divorce, and that's why they're down there. They were just like, oh, kids like dinosaurs, and kids are gonna be our target audience, yada yada yada. In the book, they talk about like the divorce and stuff. In Jurassic World, when we see the two kids at the beginning, the two brothers, parents are getting divorced. The mom is sisters with the lady who's basically running Jurassic World. So I think it's a cool little callback to the books that they threw into the new series that's going on. Anyway, that's Jurassic Park in a nutshell. There's a lot that I'm leaving out. There's a lot of characters that you see in the movie, and in the book they're completely different. I don't want to spoil anything in case somebody wants to read it. If anybody wants me to do a full episode on the book, I will. I will, because I love the book. I love the movies. But there are plenty of like YouTube channels that do kind of like break down everything compared to book to movie. This one guy that I found, which really made his channel. I don't know how the channel came up. I think I saw like a video about Jurassic Park, and then his channel popped up, and then I was like, oh, let me click on that, and then more of his videos popped up. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Let me click on that, and so now my YouTube's flooded with his videos. Whatever. Clayton Fiordi. I'll link his channel in the description if anybody wants to look at his videos. Very in-depth stuff about the Jurassic Park series and franchise. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And comparisons between the books and the movies. So he's not the only one who's ever done this before, so I feel like I could be long-winded repeating things that other people have already said. The Lost World book, very, very different from the movie. It's like not a lot in common at all. Like the one thing in common is they go to Site B on a rescue mission. Whereas in the movie, John Hammond sends Sarah Harding, and then who's dating Ian Malcolm, and Ian's like, this isn't a research trip anymore, this is a rescue mission, and then goes and takes the crew down there to get her off the island, but they still sort of conduct the research to an extent, but they're more stopping the other group from taking dinosaurs off the island. In the book, there's a professor who's obsessed with dinosaurs. He heard rumors of what happened with the original Jurassic Park and believes there's an island where dinosaurs still exist. Site B, there's rumors of this place, Isla Sorna, in the Cinco Muertes, or the Five Deaths island chain that were all volcanic islands. And Isla Sorna was one of the islands. That's where InGen had Site B. That's where they practice manufacturing dinosaurs and let them out into the wild. So there's a lot more dinosaurs out there. And, sorry, I got splinter in my finger. And in that, this professor who's like annoying the shit out of Ian Malcolm, trying to get him to talk about things about the original island, Isla Nublar, and Ian won't say anything. He's just like, nope, I'm not saying anything. I don't want to relive any of that. Just not saying anything. Well, this guy, Dr. Levine, he ends up finding the island and goes there on his own. He was supposed to go with a group of researchers, but just went without them. And these researchers come to like Ian and they're like, hey, do you know where he is? And he's like, no, I haven't seen him in a while. And they find out, oh shit, he went on his own, and they go to the island to get him. And in the book, Ian doesn't have a kid. He doesn't have Kelly. But in the book, Kelly is a real character who also has a friend named Arby. And they are students of Dr. Levine because Dr. Levine teaches at a middle school. So these kids love Dr. Levine. They help him with whatever they can. They're like really smart compared to the other students in the middle school from that. So they stow away, kind of how Kelly does in the movie, just kind of stows away in the vehicle. So they stow away and come to the island as well against the doctor's wishes. Now, if you remember from the first movie, Nedry meets with a guy at a bar, or the outdoor restaurant, Dachshund. He's actually a major character in the second book. He decides, you know what? Fuck it. The guy Nedry wasn't able to get us what we wanted, so we're going to go to Site B and try to get it ourselves. Goes to the island. And there's a reason that everything's based on Site B in the second one rather than the original island. Again, you got to read the book. I don't want to spoil it. I want to talk about every detail, but I don't want to spoil it in case somebody wants to go and read it. So Dachshund takes 2 or 3 researchers with him. They go to the island as well. And I'm listening to the book right now. I'm probably like a third of the way through. I forget how Sarah Harding gets on the island. She does get on the island. She is a character in the book. She did have a relationship with Ian at one point. They talk about that, but they're not. They're just friends now. She gets on the island somehow. I think it is through Dotson that gets her on the island, but I digress. It was a rescue mission trying to get this guy. Dotson decides to go to the island. No, we're going to get a couple specimens off the island, and then we're going to try to clone our own dinosaurs. So, that's a Lost World. I don't want to spoil the whole thing because there's a lot of cool things that were definitely not included in the movie that I think people would be really interested in hearing about. And again, there's like multiple YouTubers that have talked about all the details and comparisons. So if you don't want to read it or listen to it like I am, look up a couple of YouTubers. They'll kind of do like, you can just type in differences between Jurassic Park movie and book, and there's like a 6-minute video explaining everything for both of them. So yeah. So another one that I wanted to bring up, I haven't read this one yet. It's in my collection. It's probably going to be the next one I read. It's Dragon Teeth. Now, as I said, Michael Crichton, he died in 2006, I believe. The last book he released, excuse me, I'm sorry. The last book he released before passing was actually this novel, Next. This was the last book he released. This was released in 2005. Now, Dragon's Teeth, I thought that, like, oh, this is another, like, kind of dinosaur-based one. And I can just read off the back what this is. The year is 1876. Warring Indian tribes still populate America's western territories, even as lawless gold rush towns begin to mark the landscape, and two monomaniacal paleontologists pillage the Wild West, hunting for dinosaur fossils while surveilling, deceiving, and sabotaging each other. Into this treacherous territory plunges William Johnson, a student who has joined the world-renowned paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh on his latest expedition. But when Marsh becomes convinced that William is spying for his nemesis, Edwin Drinker Cope, he abandons him in Cheyenne, Wyoming, a locus of crime and vice. William joins forces with Cope and soon stumbles upon a discovery of historic proportions. With this extraordinary treasure, however, comes exceptional danger, and Johnson's newfound resilience will be sorely tested. And, oh, actually on the back it says Michael Crichton passed away in 2008. So I was off there. So 1942 to 2008. Yeah, maybe I should have actually looked at that shit before I started the video. No. I saw it, and I saw it was like the Wild West talking about paleontology. I thought that's got to be good. That's got to be good. And upon a little bit of research before reading it, this was actually released after his death, and it's from a culmination of research he did for the Jurassic Park and Lost World novels, looking into like paleontology and stuff and the history of finding dinosaur fossils. So I'm really interested in reading this one. I just reading the back of it, I thought, oh, that's really cool. I want to read that. And then hearing that it's based on the research he did, I'm like, that makes it even cooler to me. I really want to read it. And I'm into the Wild West type stuff. I'm into like the cowboys and concept of cowboys and dinosaurs together. Pretty fucking cool in my opinion. Another one, which is like maybe arguably his biggest or second biggest piece of work, the Andromeda Strain. Now, my dad just recently finished reading this one. I got through a good chunk of it before I had to put it down because I couldn't focus a lot on it for school, and then I never went back to it, and I feel like shit for it. But I will finish reading it. It's pretty cool. And there's a show called The Expanse, and there's like elements from The Expanse that I see in this book. This was released back in the 60s because this is the 50th anniversary edition. This was... I believe the Andromeda Strain was released in 68. I could be mistaken on that one. Maybe I can look at... 69. That was close. So it was released in 69, and it's... a meteor comes down on this very, very small town in Arizona and kills everybody in the town but two people. A 4-month-old baby and a homeless man. Now, my only issue with the book is that, oh, beard hair. I'm sorry, beard hair ended up on my tongue. No, it's still there. Huh. I'm not gonna edit this out. That's funny. Um, uh, just he puts in a lot of jargon from like different scientific studies and procedures that you do in scientific research and when testing in the field or in labs. He puts every minuscule detail. And you can look here. This is not a thick book at all. Compared to Prey, not thick. Compared to Next, which may be his largest novel, that I own at least, not thick at all. This is a pretty short book, but I only made it like halfway through because it was, like I said, I had to focus more on my schoolwork, but it was dragging a lot, talking about all these different procedures that these scientists are going to follow and how they are going through the lab and making sure they do all these sanitation protocols. And it's kind of like a problem I had with Tom Clancy books is he puts in so much little detail on like different aspects of military. It's just like, we get it, dude. You know your shit. And I remember there's this one author. I was trying to read a series from him, and he was putting in every single detail about a car that the character was driving. Like, oh, instead of just like, oh, he got into the red Camaro, he would like do 3 paragraphs talking about the car, or he had to use like a crane or something. Goes in like 2 to 4 paragraphs talking about every detail of the crane. It's like, dude, we fucking get it. But I'm digressing. I'm sorry. But there are elements. There's like a virus or some sort of disease that's on the meteor that kills everyone in a mysterious manner, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to figure out why these other 2 people survived. I will get back to it and let you guys know what I thought of it. Really cool. Really, really cool book. But elements of from the show on Amazon, The Expanse, because I was watching it at the same time I started reading this, I'm just like, this has got some like season 1, season 2 vibes from The Expanse. I think they took some elements from this book and put it into the show. Now, post-mortem, somebody made a sequel to it called Daniel H. Wilson took Michael Crichton's Andromeda Strain and wrote a sequel to it called The Andromeda Evolution. I'll have to read that as well. And another one I have here, which was developed into a movie, is Eaters of the Dead. Short novel. It's actually based in the year AD 922, and it's kind of talks about how like trade routes were developed between like Scandinavian countries and Middle Eastern countries, and so it's based around Vikings, and it's based around an Arabic man who starts to travel with them. And let me just read the back here. In the year AD 922, a refined Arab courtier, representative of the powerful Caliph of Baghdad, encounters a party of Viking warriors on their journey to the barbaric north. He's appalled by Viking customs, the wanton sexuality of their pale, angular women, their disregard for cleanliness, their cold-blooded human sacrifices. But only in the depths of the Northland does he learn the horrifying truth. He has been enlisted to combat a terror that comes under cover of night to slaughter the Vikings and devour their flesh. So, it's a horror novel based around ancient Vikings. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. There's Timeline, if you haven't seen the movie or if you haven't read the book, is another great one. And I remember I read that back in high school. We had like those summer reading courses. And I need water, my throat hurts. I think I said this in a past episode. I'm not used to talking uninterrupted for such long periods of time. So Timeline is like these paleontologist, or not paleontologist, archaeologist. They're on a research trip. They're like students of this professor. They're on a research trip in France, and they're excavating an ancient castle. And their professor goes missing one day. And they're like, where is he? And they're digging through the castle and they find a note from him. They found a note that's written from back in medieval time periods saying, help me, I'm trapped here. And it's their professor's name and his handwriting on this ancient scroll from the medieval period. And like, how the hell did this happen? And they go to find out that, hey, he was helping this company that's developing time travel equipment, and he traveled back in time but couldn't get back. Now, that sounds really cool, really appealing. Reading it up to a certain point at the age of like 14 or 15, I forget how old I was, I loved reading as a kid, but I hated mandatory reading. Because a lot of times the mandatory reading that they gave us was not that great. Like, I didn't want to read The Scarlet Letter. I didn't want to read Wuthering Heights. And so being told, like, oh, you need to choose from this list and read these. And I was looking over the list, and my parents were looking, and my dad goes, oh, we have that book Timeless downstairs. I'm like, okay, let's get it. And I picked it up, and I'm just reading. I'm just like, scroll, scroll, scroll. And again, going through, like, the science jargon of everything. And, like, kind of explaining, like, oh, this is how we just developed everything. And I'm just like, boring, boring, boring. I'll probably reread that one too, is just because older, I'm sure I'd have more of appreciation for it. I'd probably have a lot more of appreciation for it now. But there's a certain point in the book, the students travel back in time, and they're with a few employees of the company as, like, there's security detail. And they travel back in time, and they're in a clearing on a road. And they're like, okay, we're here. All right, now we just need to figure out how to get to the area that he's at, and where the professor's at, try to extract him, and then we have all the tools we need to get back home. Well, as they're talking, some knights are coming up on horseback, and they're trying over them, like, oh, and they may be here to help us. And one of them kind of goes like, oh, hi, hello. The knight just unsheathes his sword, chops his head off. And at that point in the book, I'm just like, hold the fuck up. And I was hooked, and then I was just like, wait, this is the guy who wrote Jurassic Park, right? I want to read that. And then that's when I delved into all his books, and I was like, Mom, Dad, do we have any more of his books here? And that's how I found Prey, that's how I found Next, that's how I found Eaters of the Dead. God, he was just such a smart man. And I could probably go on and on, stutter more, on and on about all this stuff. But I just kind of want to talk about those main books that I've read. He's got so much more work. I can probably... Let's look in the front of this one, Dragon Teeth. There's a list of all his books. So also by Michael Crichton in fiction, The Andromeda Strain, The Terminal Man, The Great Train Robbery, Eaters of the Dead. Congo, that's another big one. Sphere, that's another big one. Jurassic Park, Rising Sun, Disclosure, The Lost World, Airframe, Timeline, Prey, State of Fear, Next, Pirate Latitudes, Micro. And they list only a couple nonfiction ones called Five Patients, Jasper Johns, Electronic Life, and Travels. And like I said, I don't really know much about his nonfiction work. I know a lot of it is kind of like research-based or, research-based or kind of like, I guess research or more like just educational-based books. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my wheelhouse. And everyone has their own wheelhouse on what they want to read. I'm sure maybe some of my friends who are going to watch this are going to be like, everything you just listed sounds boring as shit. I don't want to read that. And there's going to be others that are going to be like, that sounds amazing, and kind of ridicule me. Why didn't you have an appreciation for it to begin with? But hey, everybody's taste is different. And Michael Crichton is very science fiction, but it ranges from action adventure to horror to just straight up fantasy kind of stuff. He had a very broad spectrum, and he did great with everything that he wrote. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about, since I just finished Jurassic Park and I'm reading or listening, I'm sorry, to The Lost World again, and I gotta go back and finish Andromeda Strain, and I want to read Dragon Teeth. I want more time to read all this. I want to go back and reread Prey and Next. Damn, I I used to love reading so much. As a kid, I was constantly reading, and as I got older, it kind of fell away from me. And I really hope someday soon I can get back in. I'm going to make it an effort to get back into reading because, God, his work is so good. And if I could find more authors like him, I'm going to be going all over it. Now, there is another author that I love. His name's Steve McHugh. He has this big ongoing series that he developed. And as far as I'm aware, this series, it was broken up into 3 different series, but it's still an overarching story about one area that I'm talking. Steve McHugh, he developed what is called the Heliquin Chronicles. I'll probably do an episode on that. It's really cool, and it's the way he writes is really in my wheelhouse, where it's not. It's goofy. It can be serious when it needs to be. It's Michael Crichton in a sense where it's just like, we're going to talk about like the violence and the gore and stuff, but we're also going to kind of keep everything interesting and won't make you like want to turn away from the gore and violence. It doesn't go as in depth as Michael would, but anyway, Steve McHugh's series Heliquin Chronicles, which then he wrote another one that was the Avalon Chronicles, then finally the Rebellion Chronicles. But all these chronicles together is like 13-book series about one character. Really well written. It was right in my wheelhouse, and I'll probably do an episode on that if anybody wants to hear about that. I want to talk about it, but like I said, I don't want to spoil anything, because I was trying to be as vague as I could, like describing the differences between the movie and the books, because I don't want to spoil it in case this interests anyone into going, yeah, I think I'm going to go back and read those, or, oh, hey, maybe I should pick those up at Barnes & Noble and read them. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling at this point. We're at the 43-minute mark. I'm going to hop off of here. I'm going to go listen to more of The Lost World while playing Mario Kart on my new Switch, and then probably work on more schoolwork. I'm glad to be back doing this. It's been a few weeks since I've gotten on the podcast. I really need to work on getting a good schedule, and with a lot of things, honestly, I need to get a good schedule. I'm also, another thing in my life, I forgot to mention this at the top of the episode, I went shooting recently with my cousins Nick and Alex, ranged down by them in Fredericksburg, and as you see, new wall art over there, AR-15 that me and my dad built, shot that for the first time. We all kind of like traded off guns, rifles and handguns with each other, and we're like shooting them off on the range. And we filmed some of it on my girlfriend Rebecca's GoPro. I have all the videos on my laptop. I want to compile them into a vlog of some sorts. I mean, it shows that I am not a great shot. It shows I'm not really that good of a shot. But it's something I'm learning how to do. I always want to learn how to do different things. And become a better shot would be pretty cool. But anyway, I'm digressing. All right, this is Figure It Out, episode 5 on Michael Crichton. So, See you guys. Take care.